Every single day, every organization, and let's be honest, every one of us faces the exact same challenge. How do you navigate a future that's completely uncertain? The difference between the ones who really thrive and those who just get by, it often comes down to one little word: strategy. So let's dive into this and figure out how you can start shaping your future instead of just letting it happen to you.
We all start out at what you could call a strategic crossroads. It can feel pretty overwhelming, right? There are countless paths you could take and no clear signs telling you which way to go. What we're going to do here is give you a map and a compass for that journey.
And it all starts by answering 3 surprisingly simple questions. First, where are we now? And that requires a really honest look in the mirror. Second, where do we want to go? What's that big, ambitious vision for the future? And then there's the third and most critical question of all. How are we actually going to get there? That how? Well, that's what this is all about.
Okay, so if we're at a crossroads, we need a map, right? Well, that map is the strategic management process. It's the system, the framework that turns those big goals from wishful thinking into something real. So let's break it down. Okay, if there's one word on this slide you need to remember, it's continuous. This is where so many people get strategy wrong. It's not some dusty document you write up once a year and then forget about. It's got to be a living, breathing thing, a constant conversation with reality. You're always planning, monitoring, and, most importantly, you're always adapting. And this whole continuous thing can be broken down into 4 clear steps that just keep repeating. First, you've got analysis. You look around you and you look inside. Then comes formulation, where you make the tough choices about what you're actually going to do. Next up, implementation. This is where the rubber meets the road. And finally, evaluation. You measure how you did, you see what worked, and you learn from what didn't. Then the cycle starts all over again. Only this time, you're a whole lot smarter.
Now, to get through that cycle effectively, you can't just wing it. Every good strategist has a toolkit. These are just frameworks that help you think clearly and cut through all the noise, especially during that super important analysis phase.
And the first tool we're going to pull out of the box is an absolute classic for a reason. It's the SWOT analysis. It might seem simple, but it is an incredibly powerful way to get your thoughts organized about where you're standing right now.
So this simple little grid is the heart of it all. The real genius here is how it forces you to separate what's internal, your strengths and weaknesses, the stuff you can control, from what's external, the opportunities and threats out there in the world that you have to react to. But listen, the real power isn't just making lists. The magic happens when you start connecting the boxes. Asking questions like, how can we use this strength to go after that opportunity? Okay, so let's grab our next tool. While SWOT gives you that amazing snapshot of your own situation, Porter's 5 Forces is all about understanding the entire industry you're playing in. It really helps you zoom out and see the bigger picture. This framework basically helps you map out the power dynamics of your industry by looking at 5 key things. First, how easy is it for new competitors to just show up? Then, who has the upper hand in negotiations, your suppliers or your buyers? Next, could your customers easily find a totally different way to solve their problem? And finally, just how intense is the competition among the players who are already there? Figuring this out shows you where the money and the power really are in your industry. All right, so you've done your analysis, you've used the tools, and you have a brilliant plan. You're done, right? Not even close. Now we get to the hardest part, and frankly, the reason most strategies just end up collecting dust on a shelf. Just look at that number, 60 to 90%. Let that sink in for a second. That is what people call the implementation gap. The huge majority of really smart plans fail, not because they were bad ideas, but because they never actually made it from the page into the real world. And that really drives home the most crucial point. A strategy isn't the plan itself. A strategy is the result of that plan being put into action. Without execution, all you have is a document. Just a good idea that never happened. And putting plans into action is tougher than ever because we're all operating in what's called a VUCA world. Things are volatile. They change in a flash. They're uncertain, so you can't predict what's next. They're complex, with a million moving parts. And they're ambiguous. It's often not clear what's even going on. In an environment like this, being able to adapt isn't just a nice to have. It's a flat-out survival skill. So all this brings us to maybe the most important takeaway of all. Strategic management is so much more than a process or a bunch of tools. At its core, it's a mindset. It's a way of thinking that you can apply to anything, your company, your team, even your own life. So, if you walk away with just one thing, let it be this. A strategic mindset isn't about having a perfect, bulletproof plan. No way. It's about being perfectly prepared to adapt. It's about seeing your strategy as a theory that you are constantly testing against reality. Always asking yourself, is this still working? Is this still creating value? You know, we started this whole thing at a crossroads, but you're not standing there empty-handed anymore. Now you have a map. You have a compass. The future really does belong to those who prepare for it. So the only real question left to ask is the one right here on the screen. Your strategy starts now. What's your first move?